Welcome back, and in this hands-on we will be creating, partitioning, mounting disk and file system, and this will be your outcome. After you do this hands-on, you will be able to create a virtual hard disk for your virtual machine, and you will be partitioning the disk and creating file system, and finally mount your partitions and file system and bring them to life so your users can start actually using it. And here, these are 6 steps that you'll be doing in the hands-on, and each of them will have more detailed explanation provided in the document. And before you begin your hands-on practice, I just want to walk you through a couple of quick things. So first thing is Linux devices. In Linux world, there are 2 devices. One is a block device, or another name is storage device. So these guys, like the name, they are meant to provide storages for our data. So some examples are hard disk, or SSD card, or USB, or external storage device. And the other type is character devices. These guys, they don't have any physical storage media. And examples are keyboards, mouses, ports, and so on. So let's say we have a storage device, right? And we want to partition it. So if it's empty, it's good. We don't have to worry about any data loss. But if it's not empty, before you partition your disk, you want to make sure that you back up your data and you wipe everything out, because when you partition it, all your data will be lost. So this is one thing for you to keep in mind if you want to partition anything. You have already data in there, you want to back it up first. So again, there's a physical storage device, and we partition that device, right? And partitioning just basically mean breaking it down into different blocks so that we can use it for different purposes or different file system. And so up until the point we partition it, we only have different blocks in our storage device. We cannot actually use it yet until we install or we create the file system for each of those partitions. And a file system is basically a data structure to work between the actual device and the files and directories. It doesn't actually interpret the files, but it's a tool to help you manage, retrieve, and store the files and directories. So there are several types, XFS and EXT. So those are very common for Linux, and NTFS is for Windows, and then FAT is compatible with Mac, Unix, and also Windows. And if you want to know more, there will be more explanation in the hands-on as well. So just to sum it up, basically the process of partitioning a disk is you need to have an empty storage device, and again, if it's not empty, you want to back your data first before you wipe it out. And then once it's ready to be partitioned, you're gonna start partitioning it. You just decide how many partitions you want to have and just create it, right? And then you have to decide how big or what's the size of your partitions, and what type it will support, what type of operating system it will support, and so on and so forth. And then once you partitioned your drive, you will start to create file system. And the 4th step is optional. You can give your file system a label so that it's easier for you to remember. So let's say, for example, in Linux, the devices and the partitions, they have different names that's quite hard to remember, such as SDB, SDC, SDA, and then it comes with the numbers after the letters. So then if you have a lot of partitions, it's quite hard to remember. That's why we want to give it a label, but without the label, it's still working fine. It doesn't affect anything. And then at the fifth step, say after you created your partition, it's not yet functional until you mount it. So mounting just means you give it a directory so that your operating system know where to point at to use that partition. So let's say, for example, in Windows, probably your partition is your user partition is most of the time pointed or mounted at the C drive, right? And then there are different ones like D or H or F in Windows, and it's kind of similar concept basically. And then each partition, it's a totally different directory. And then the last thing you want to do is you want to mount your file system. So at this step, I like to think it as a deployment. Say if you create a website, you want to make it public so the users can actually see it and use it. So this is the similar concept. After you created everything and you mount it, so you want to mount your file system as well, so then your user can actually see it and actually use it. So again, these are 6 steps in your hands-on, and each of them will have more detailed explanation. So go ahead and do it, and don't forget to submit the screenshots that's asked of in the document. And if you have any question, feel free to reach out to me. Have fun!